Welcome to The Explainer. After a whole summer of these really high-stakes diplomatic meetings, it feels like the war in Ukraine has hit a major turning point. But here's the thing. Under all this talk about peace, there's something much more dangerous starting to bubble up.
So today, what we're going to do is try to untangle this whole complex situation. We'll kick things off with the diplomatic dance, or really, the deadlock. Then we'll get into the tough reality on the ground, which is really what's pushing all of this to happen right now. After that, we'll follow the money, because that's always a big part of the story, right? And we'll finish up by looking at this growing nuclear shadow that's hanging over everything.
All right, so let's just jump right in. Things moved fast in August, really setting the stage for where we are now. You had Trump meeting with Putin up in Alaska. Then, just a few days later, he's hosting Zelensky in Washington, and at the same time, Russia makes this huge move, ending its moratorium on deploying certain missiles. I mean, that whole chain of events, it's got everybody, and I mean everybody, on edge.
Okay, first up, this dangerous diplomatic dance. Look, the meetings were a big deal, no doubt about it, historic even, but what they really did was throw a giant spotlight on just how far apart everyone truly is.
And this quote from Macron? Wow, it pretty much sums up the entire European viewpoint. You have leaders like him, who, by the way, basically crashed the party in Washington, and they see Russia as this ogre at the gates. That's not just colorful language, it shapes their entire strategy. They're just deeply, deeply suspicious of any deal that doesn't, put Russia back in its box.
And right here, this is the main reason nothing's moving forward. It's like a classic chicken and egg problem. The West is saying, ceasefire first, stop the fighting now. But Russia's looking at that and thinking, no way, that's just a trick to give Ukraine time to rearm. For them, a ceasefire can only be the result of a bigger peace deal, not the start of one. So this whole what comes first argument, it's the roadblock. The whole thing is stuck right there.
So you might be asking, what actually came out of that Alaska meeting? Well, the framework from Trump and Putin was, let's call it pragmatic, and definitely controversial. It basically says two things. One, Ukraine isn't joining NATO. That's off the table. And two, the lines on the map right now, that's our starting point. And Russia's big concession in all this? They promise not to try and take over the entire country. Yeah.
So why all these talks now? What's the big rush? Well, the simple, tough answer is what's happening on the battlefield. The reality on the ground for Ukraine has gotten really, really grim, and that's forcing everyone, and I mean everyone, to rethink their game plan.
Just take a look at this. The numbers don't lie. Even with all the support from the West, Russian forces are just grinding forward. It's not fast, it's not a lightning war, it's slow, it's methodical, and it's all about attrition. They're just wearing Ukraine down, bit by bit, especially out in the Donbass.
And that really gets to the core of the Russian strategy. It's not just a land grab. As their general put it, the goal is demilitarization. They want to grind down Ukraine's ability to fight, period. It's a war of attrition, focused on destroying soldiers and equipment. And, well, it's taking an absolutely brutal toll.
And that brutal reality on the battlefield, it's having a huge effect back home in Ukraine. Look at this poll. We're now seeing almost 70% of Ukrainians saying they want to negotiate an end to the war. That's a massive shift. The will to just keep fighting it's fading.
A big reason for that shift in opinion is pretty stark. They're running out of soldiers. It's a critical manpower shortage. So now, Ukraine is trying to fill the gaps with technology. We're talking drones, robots, you name it. But that's a really tough pivot to make, and the early reports aren't great. Apparently, only about 40% of their drones are even reaching their targets. That's not a winning formula.
All right, so for our third piece of this puzzle, we're going to do what you always have to do, follow the money. Because a huge reason these talks are happening at all comes down to immense, and I mean immense, financial pressure on the U.S.
Just look at that number, $37 trillion. That is the U.S. national debt right now. And a number that big isn't just a number, it's a force of nature. It's fundamentally changing how America acts on the world stage, and it's a massive reason why the White House is desperate for an off-ramp in Ukraine.
And if you want some perspective on what that means, check this out. The interest payments alone, just the interest on that debt, are now over $1 trillion a year. Think about that. That's more than the entire U.S. defense budget. The bottom line is pretty simple. The money's running out. The U.S. just can't afford to keep financing this war like it has been. So this all feeds into Trump's exit and profit plan. It's pretty straightforward, really. Step 1, stop funding the war directly. Step 2, push Europe to pick up the tab. But here's the kicker. Step 3, sell Ukraine $100 billion worth of American weapons and have Europe pay for it. So the idea is to get out of the financial hole, but make sure U.S. defense companies still get a massive payday. It's about stopping the bleeding while still making a profit.
And all of this brings us to our final and frankly most terrifying topic. Because while all this is going on, the diplomacy, the fighting, and old fear is coming back. The nuclear threat. Something we thought we left behind in the Cold War? Yeah, it's back, and it's escalating fast.
You know, for most of our lives, there was this thing called the INF Treaty. It was a huge deal. It basically banned a whole class of missiles that could be used for a surprise nuclear attack in Europe. It was a critical safety rail. And a few years back, that treaty collapsed. That guardrail is just gone now.
And what happens when the guardrails are gone? Well, this happens. Russia is now mass-producing a new hypersonic missile called the Oreshnik. And let's be clear, this isn't just another missile. It's a total game changer because it can fly so fast and maneuver in ways that mean right now, there is literally nothing the West has that can stop it.
On top of these new weapons, all the heated talk has brought back whispers of something from the darkest days of the Cold War. It's called Dead Hand. It's this rumored, almost mythical, automated system. The idea is that even if a first strike takes out Russia's entire leadership, Dead Hand would automatically launch a full-scale retaliatory strike. It's a doomsday machine, designed to make sure that if they go down, everybody goes down.
So you put all this together, and we are right on the edge of a cliff. The very last nuclear arms treaty between the US and Russia, it's called New START, is set to expire this February. And if that goes away, for the first time in more than half a century, there will be zero limits on their nuclear arsenals. We are talking about a wide-open, completely new arms race.
So that leaves us with a really chilling final thought. We're watching this desperate push for peace in Ukraine, right? But it's happening at the exact same moment that the whole global system designed to prevent nuclear war is crumbling. So the question you have to ask yourself is, are we just watching the end of one war, or are we about to witness the beginning of a much, much bigger one?